Bonjour! Once again, the Renault 4, the police car from France. It is time to see if the engine is any good, if I can make it run and drive, because as always I need this to go to my storage facility because that's where my project goes and lives. No, of course, this is not the project I'm working on right now. I'm working on the Saab, I'm working on all the other projects. But I need new projects that I sometimes really late at night, very impulsive buys on the internet. Not this one actually, this was gifted to me. But I need them to start up so they can go to the storage facility. And then later down the line, I will try to save them, hopefully. But the first thing is to know, because if a car like this is also completely in the engine, then maybe it is too big of a task. But we'll see. There are some things on this engine that is worrying me. There doesn't seem to be any coolant in the system. There seems to be missing an expansion tank maybe. And there's a temperature gauge, aftermarket temperature gauge inside of there that tells me that this engine is overheating. But other than that, I know nothing about it. The only thing I have done since the last video where I introduced this car is that I have proceeded to break out the key barrel thingy in the steering column, because the steering was locked because of a lack of key, so you couldn't turn. Now I have pulled it out, so now it works again. I can turn the steering wheel. That's nice, especially for moving it. And I can also get to the wires on the back side and short it, because that's the way we're going to attempt to start this one. But firstly, let's try to take out the old battery and put in a new one and see what happens. Maybe it catches fire, you never know. Maybe some lights will go on. I doubt any radio will start because this car just doesn't have one. And there is a battery in this car, but I'm not even going to attempt to use that because it is old for sure. Yeah, the bolt snapped, but I got it off. Oops. And then a new battery. Now we should have some power on the car. So far so good. Okay, so inside the cabin, no lights has turned on, but it is not an ignition because I need to short that. But some stuff must work if I switch it on maybe. I think maybe if I take this one. Oh yeah, we got light in the dash. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we got a lot of stuff working already. Good sign. What about the front? Yeah. Woohoo. It's pretty much done already, this car. So now I just need to figure out which wires goes where. I got them down here. It's hard to see, I need to get a light. So there we go. As you can see, it has been unwrapped around the barrel, so this could be pulled out. That means that the steering wheel can now turn. Then I just need to figure out which wires does what. It has already been cut, one of them, and it's going around the connector right here. This one is power, the brown one. Can you see anything? The brown one down there is live. But I'm just looking to put it into ignition. So if I take this one, now I need to make sure that the car is in neutral, because if I do this wrong, the starter motor will engage. That could make the car jump forward, of course. Wait! Have to be careful doing this kind of stuff. And if I touch these two together, the car is in ignition. So now if we can turn the engine with the starter out there, it should fire if everything works, which it most likely doesn't, but you know what I mean. I'm going to disconnect the battery now because I don't want it to be in ignition all the time. I just know that it works now. And then I'm going to see if I can find the starter motor and then attach my remote starter. It's a very simple thing, easy to make. I think I'm going to make a video about it one day because I get asked about it quite a lot, but it is very simple. It's just a wire with a button in between, so I can fit one end to a positive terminal and the other end to the signal wire on the starter engine, That way I can activate the starter motor with this button. It won't activate the rest of the system, the ignition and all that. So the ignition needs to be on for it to work if you want to start the engine up. But what we're going to do is to find that wire. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's right down there. That is the terminal for the signal on the starter motor. So we're just going to put one end on that one, like that. And the other connector I will connect to the positive terminal on the battery. And in the previous video I found out that the engine was not stuck, at least. So I'm actually just going to try to crank it. But I'm going to take the car out of ignition again because I don't want it to attempt to fire just yet, at least. Okay, so with the ignition turned off for the ignition system, for the spark and all that, the battery connected, and the remote starter connected, I should be able to push this and the engine should spin over, but it shouldn't start or anything. And the car is not in gear. So let's attempt to see if something happens. Just a short press of the button to begin with. Oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds just fine. Before doing anything else, I'm just going to disconnect the fuel line coming from the fuel tank, because one thing is maybe there's old fuel in there, maybe there's crap in there, so it needs to be cleaned out. But the main concern right now is that it's locked, and I have no keys for this car, so I can't even open the filler flap right now without breaking the lock. And maybe it could be nice to actually see if I can find the correct number for the key. So normally it's written on the back side of the barrels, so at least get a key for the doors and the locks and all that. The ignition itself is already broken, so I need another one of those, but maybe I could code that to the new key. We'll see. But what I'm going to do to get this running and driving, hopefully in and out of the garage, I'll just make a remote fuel tank up here somewhere, maybe in the car itself, and then run a fuel line to the pump. That way I know that it's going to be clean fuel that is going in there. So I'm going to do that. There we go. That is the fuel line going to the fuel tank. I am just going to put a bolt into that. It is actually smelling of fuel. Not that old fuel also, so maybe someone has attempted to start it, but it wouldn't really make sense because I don't know how they would have put fuel into the tank. Maybe the keys hasn't been missing for long. But now it's opened up. What I'm going to do next is to attach a fuel line to that. And then I saw a hole in the firewall, so I think we're just going to put it in there. And then hopefully we can just put it into a fuel can inside of the car. Oh yeah, but now I've locked it again. I have taken a fuel canister and put the pipe down there, or the fuel line down into that. I actually have a external fuel tank exactly for this purpose, but I forgot that it is still sitting in the engine bay of the Mahari I started up a couple of weeks back. So it's just going to have to be like that for now. Next up, what I would like to do is to remove the fuel line going to the cap, just to make sure that the pump is actually pumping fuel. And then let's just put this into here so we can catch the fuel that comes out, hopefully. I just want to see if the fuel pump is actually working. Very often you will have to get some fuel down to the membrane to make it actually pump. But let's just try. We could be lucky that it's just working. Yeah, we got fuel. Nice. So we're just gonna reconnect that. This could end up being a really easy starter. But remember, there is no coolant in the system, so I just want to put some water in there. I'm not gonna run it for long, of course, but I would like to just give it some kind of cooling. Something must be leaking pretty badly since it's completely empty. Or maybe someone drained it, because maybe if you have filled in water and the winter comes, you would drain it. I'm not seeing any massive leak, at least right now. So I don't know, but at least we got something in there to cool it if anything happens. So I think I'm just gonna chance it and try to start it by turning the ignition on and give it a small crank. Of course, if it fires up, I will have to remove that wire in the ignition to take it out of the ignition, or pull out the battery terminal, which is not the best thing to do, but it can be done at least. Okay, so this is going to be the first real startup attempt. The ignition is on. Fuel should come to the carb. It could be stuck, the float and all that. So, and I haven't checked for spark either. But let's just try and see what happens. Where's this? This is the gas. Is there some kind of choke? Yeah, there's a choke mechanism right there. Can I activate that from here? Yeah, I can. Let's give it a go. Okay. That was surprisingly easy. And it sounded pretty nice, to be honest. Fired up easy. Sounded nice. What a surprise. We got some water leaking now, but it's not a surprise either. Just hope it's not a cracked block. That would be bad, of course. It seems to be from the actual radiator itself that is leaking. You think so? Wow, it started up easy. Really easy. So that was a pleasant surprise. That was way easier than expected. To think, I'm pretty sure that this is a point. Yeah, it is, because I saw the condenser. So it's an old school ignition system, and I didn't even have to clean the points, and it just fired up. And it's sounding pretty well, especially for a first startup in many years. That was a big surprise. So now I think the next step would be to see if it drives, because I would like to just move it out of here. But two of the tires are flat, and as shown in the previous video, the front wheel has already got a lot of foam in it. I will try to put some more in, because I just want them to hold pressure for at least an hour or something like that. That would be enough to make it possible to move it easily. So let's try that. I'm not going to invest in new tires for a car that is this far from going on the road. And I'm not really sure when I will start work on this car for real. In case you were wondering what this kind of what I'm doing right now, this is run flat foam that you can, in an emergency, pump your tire up with, and it should hold pressure for at least a while. It's not a permanent fix, and it's a bad way of doing it, because you will have a lot of cleaning to do on the rim afterwards. But right now it doesn't really matter. It's only meant for one wheel, but I'm just going to try to make it work on both of them. Also, the tire is actually supposed to be, or the valve is supposed to be at 4 or 8 o'clock. It was on the rear, but not here, but I don't think it will matter that much. I am just attempting to do a really poor quick fix. And then let's give it some more pressure with the small compressor tool. Okay, so foam is no longer escaping from the rim like it did in the last video, but let me show you something else, which is a classic Citroën rim problem. It is the metal. The rim consists of two pieces of metal welded together. They rust, and then they leak from the actual rim. So this car needs new rims. So that's a bummer, but not a huge surprise. What I want to do now is to swing the car around so I can remove all the stuff in the front and open up the gate and then drive it out of there. Yes, it would be more easy to do it through that door, but that is just next to my bedroom. And the family is asleep at the moment because it's a bit late. So don't think that would be very wise to do. So I'm gonna try the other solution. Like that, and then move all the stuff in the front. So hopefully this video will end here with me being very cool and starting up the Renault 4, driving it out of the garage and parking it outside. It could of course end up being a bit different because I don't know if the brakes work. The brakes needs to work for me to be able to drive it out that very steep ramp out there. So maybe I will just have to park it in here anyway, but hopefully we're just gonna have to see. And then I don't know when the Renault will come back on the channel because as mentioned, I got a lot of other projects that I would like to fix up. And in a way, maybe I should wait with these videos before I actually start the projects. But I need them to run to get them to my storage facility. And it feels wrong to make a video and not releasing it before maybe in a year or something like that. This is just the way it's going to be. Let's see if it can run out there. It's really raining out there now.